Hello, this is Cho of the Shiny Colors Discord. Welcome to another episode of the Shiny Review. Today we've got two new cards to talk about. The new Produce SSR for Tenka, as well as the Support SSR for Kogane. Now keep in mind that these cards are permanent. I'm sorry that I wasn't able to get this video out sooner, but things just kind of came up. And luckily, because these cards are permanent, it means that you don't have to worry about any sort of time-limited portion to the banner. These cards will be up and around for the rest of the game. With that all being said, let's go ahead and get started talking about Tenka. So Tenka is a dance visual unit, starting out as a dance unit and becoming visual by 3 stars. Her initial appeal is a dance 3.5 that grants a 3% buff to your passive activation chance for 2 turns, and applies a mental 5% regen for 3 turns. The plus appeal, which requires the full Alstroemeria lineup and to have 8 or more heals throughout the run, grants you a dance 100% buff for 4 turns. The 3-star appeal is a visual 4.5 that grants a 5% buff to your passive activation chance for 2 turns, and a mental 5% regen for 4 turns. The plus condition is the same as before, 8 or more healing instances in the full Alstroemeria lineup, and this grants a visual 100% buff for 4 turns. Her total uncaps are Dance 250, Visual 250. For her passives, her first one at 1 star is a Dance Visual 50% up that requires it to be turned 2 or earlier and has a 20% chance to activate once. Her 2-star passive is a Dance Visual 85% up that requires 1 or more active regen buffs and has a 20% chance to activate twice. Lastly, her 4-star passive is a Visual 85% up that requires the full Alstroemeria lineup and has a 20% chance to activate twice. Her memory appeal, when maxed out, is a Dance Visual 2.0 that scales based on how high your current mental is, that links into another Dance Visual 2.0 that scales based on how high your current mental is. Tenka is okay. The small boost to passive activation is incredibly negligible. The heal is reasonable for what she intends to use it for. It's not about the fact that she is healing, it's the fact that she is stacking up healing instances to make her plus appeal live or to improve the effects of other Alstroemeria cards that may be on your team. The plus appeal will probably never have a real reason to come up unless you have an extremely ideal team for it, but even then, I don't think that the buff is worth it when there are so many other options that Alstroemeria can work with right now. I feel like that's not really game-changing enough to the team to warrant going for specifically. Plus, this Tenka has a lot of competition between Twicolate Tenka for Dance and Tenka 9 for Visual, which isn't even really close in either instance. Both of those cards are significantly better than this Tenka, even in terms of what she's actually trying to do. If you lack any other Tenka, she can serve as an okay filler unit, but otherwise I wouldn't say that this card is a must-have outside of if you want the card art or the commune. As a unit, I would give her a C+ to a B-, and as a center, roughly a C. I don't think her memory appeal is awful, but I think dual stat memory appeals are still a bit of a problem unless your team is specifically tailored for it, and so far, Alstroemeria does not really have a dual stat team that is worth talking about. So next then, we have Kogane, who is a dance support. She has 3 unique support skills, being Dance Mastery SP, which reaches plus 15 at level 80, otherwise plus 12 at level 70, plus 6 at level 30. She has Unit Mastery Mental, reaching plus 10 at level 75, plus 7 at level 65, and plus 4 at level 55. Finally, she has Event Boost, which reaches plus 2 at level 75, and plus 1 at level 65. I would say in general, 2-star feels like the ideal spot for this support, giving you a decent chunk of Dance Mastery SP, along with access to the rest of her masteries to some degree. It's not a particularly outstanding set of masteries outside of a general stamina support that we didn't really cover that could reach plus 5 at level 70. That's fine, but the rest of her kit isn't exactly all that crazy, which makes sense since she is a permanent card. As for the rest of what Kogane does, her initial appeal is a Dance 2.5 that reduces your current mental by 20% and grants you a Dance maximum 30% buff that is determined by how much health was paid when you use that 20% reduction. So as we can see here, the scaling stops at over 1,000, so you would need to have over 5,000 mental in order to get the 30% maximum buff. The upgraded version of the appeal at 4 stars is a Dance 3.0 that reduces your current mental by 30% and grants a Dance maximum 60% up that scales based on the reduction. Both of those buffs will last for 3 turns. The scaling for this is about the same. You need to pay 1,000 mental in order to get the 60% buff. However, because it is a 30% reduction, this means that your max mental does not need to be as high because the payment is that much higher, but you will still need to account for that if you want the strongest version of this buff. As for her passives, the only one you really care about is her 2-star passive. A dance 110% up if your mental is 49% or less, and it has a 30% chance to activate once. Her total uncaps as a support adds up to plus 200 to dance. Kogane is honestly kind of whatever outside of her 110% passive. The appeal is cute, giving you access to a more modern take on Antika buffing through mental reduction, which is something I've been kind of asking for a while, letting permanent cards be a sample of the stronger effects you can get in the future. I think the problem is that this card is just a little too weak, I think, for most teams to consider. Even by 2018 standards, a 60% buff, while you have to jump through so many hoops to make it, just seems not worth it. So I can't imagine a ton of teams will necessarily use this for the buff specifically, but more so for the mental reduction, which is fine. I think there are certainly teams that will try to take advantage of that, which makes this card not entirely worthless, but just more tricky to use rather than just some kind of general support to slap onto a team. Combine that with her masteries, it makes the card not super appealing unless you are, again, building towards a very specific niche. And of course, because she is a Dance Kogane support, she has to compete with Daikichi Kogane, which is a very hard sell even now, considering how old Daikichi is and how relevant she still is at the same time. I would give this card a B-, if I'm being generous. I would maybe argue C+, but I think B- is fair for her. There are certainly some ways that you can use her in a way that is interesting, but I don't know if she's necessarily strong enough to make a huge splash in the community. So, that will do it for the video today. Thank you so much, as always, for watching. Next time we'll be talking about the upcoming banner, which, as of the time of this recording, we do know who it will be. It is a parallel collection banner featuring Kaho and Madoka. Now, if you can tell from my gems, I've got to do a little bit of true end runs to be prepared for that. So, I don't know when the next review will happen necessarily before the banner is over, but it'll happen. Good luck to all of those that are pulling. Till the next one, I've been Cho. Thank you as always for watching. Have a wonderful rest of your day.